What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Derek,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are last week's album where we're talking about good music, and this week we're talking about They Want My Soul by Spoon. But first, we're going to start things off like we always do, drinking a beer. Cheers, Kevin. Cheers, everyone at home.
Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
And as I just mentioned, this week we're talking about They Want My Soul by Spoon. Spoon being the awesome bass band led by frontman Britt Daniel. They originally started in '93, and They Want My Soul is their 8th full-length album, and their first since 2010's Transference. And They Want My Soul also marks the first album with new member Alex Fischel, who plays keyboards and guitar on this album. So, Kevin, They Want My Soul. What does it sound like?
Derek, I thought this album sounds like Spoon looking into a spoon, and by that I mean it's sort of a spacier, trippier reflection of itself. What did you think it sounds like?
Kevin, I like that imagery. I think mine's kind of along those lines, but I think They Want My Soul sounds like Spoon got their groove back, which is fantastic. So what do you have for key tracks?
Derek, my favorite tracks were Inside Out and Let Me Be Mine. What about you?
Great tracks. I have Rent I Pay and Do You. And Rent I Pay is actually the opening track, so I'll start there. It opens with a metered snare cymbal, heavy drums, fuzzy electric guitar chords, bass guitar, organ-sounding synths, and the chorus has just this cool bluesy guitars, drums, with a vocal melody that's more catchy than Ebola. Steer clear of bodily fluids.
Wow.
Too soon? I don't know. Lyrically, I thought this one was very interesting. At first, kind of listening to Rent I Pay, I kind of thought maybe he was talking about the Muhammad Ali quote, where Muhammad Ali said, service to others is the rent we pay for our space here on Earth. But on closer listens, I found that is not the case. I think this one's really kind of about some of the just living with someone, some of the give and take that goes on, and here he's really kind of focusing more on the negative aspect of that. One of the verses, he says, I've been losing sleep, just nodding, sleep that I wish I'd known, and I lost all my tapes of backmasking, peace, just asking, peace that I ought to be owed. So there's really kind of this uneasiness building underneath the surface, if you will, and it comes to the surface here in just this rocking, blasting opening track, which just immediately grabbed my attention.
Yeah, totally agree. That one really dragged me right into the album. Agreed. So, for my first key track, though, I'm going with Inside Out, which has this really snappy percussion, revving bass, pulsing synth, bouncing piano. The keyboard solos here are just the jam. Sometimes it sounds like a harp. Later it sounds like a piccolo. Later it sounds like a glockenspiel. I mean, just running the gamut on these synth effects on the keyboards here, which are really, really awesome. And then towards the end, we get 3 of them all going at once, which is just nuts. And overall just builds a sort of groovy, sort of hip-hop soul to the song. The message, as I interpret it, was sort of love is my religion. He's sort of disavowing customary religion and going for the lady he is in love with. And for me, this is probably, well, definitely a contender for track of the year. Just really, really grabbed me, and I think it's an awesome, awesome track. But tell us more about Do You, Derek.
Kevin, I will, but before I do, that is a fantastic song. I think you're completely right. The instrumental, which kind of seems to just go on forever, you don't want it to end because the groove is just so solid. But moving on to Do You, this is kind of thematically, the lyrical theme here I think actually is very much in line with kind of what you were saying there on Inside Out. From the sounds, it's driven by this clean drum beat, driving guitar chords. There's piano, some subtle emotive synths, and these backing falsetto vocals that just say doo-doo, doo-doo. It's really kind of bleeds into the track title itself, which I thought was very interesting. The lyrics here, as I kind of interpreted, main character is proclaiming his love to someone that is hesitant to requite, and then the main character is just trying to understand this disconnect where he feels one way, the other person feels completely opposite. And a lyric I really enjoyed, he says, "I was on 45th, I was half out the bag, yeah, I knew that you saw me, you laughed when I looked back. I thought I'd given up, now I didn't feel so bad, and then a shock went through me, and then I walked right back." So you can just kind of see here how they're, once you're kind of in that position there, you want to get away, but you want to come back right away. And just the song here just really, as Kevin kind of mentioned, there's a lot of nuances, synth and otherwise, that just really kind of really bring it all together, and really just enjoyed this one.
Yeah, Derek, actually, fun fact, the 45th he mentions there is actually just a few blocks from the house I was living in just a few months ago, so that was a fun little nugget to discover. I may or may not have been half out of the bag at that same very corner at some point in time. But anyway, my key track, our second one, is Let Me Be Mine. This is definitive Spoon. It's driving and building and thick and really efficient. There's very chunky guitars, these angelic synths, and these owlish post-choruses, I'm calling them. And you get these snippets of modern effects over this whole sort of classic pop rock vibe. It's very smoothly danceable, but with a lot of rough live energy and all that together. As I said, it's just definitive classic Spoon at the top of their game. So, yeah, best lyrics, Derek?
That it is, yeah. So, I actually feel like there's a whole lot of them to pull from here. But I'm going to take one from Rainy Taxi, which we hadn't even talked about yet. And he says, "I came home last night, I had no good news, and you've been sleeping through the apocalyptic ruin. And if you leave, I'll never sing another tune." So I just really kind of liked that, obviously as I'm saying it now, that it doesn't sound like it rhymes, but Britt and his vocal abilities clearly makes it rhyme. And I just like the apocalyptic ruin and then transferring that to sing another tune. I mean, just kind of taking two very polar opposite ideas and making them fit together, which I think is just true to Spoon, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue to my best lyric, Derek, taking two different ideas and making them work together. I'm pulling one from Let Me Be Mine, my second key track. It goes, "Auction off what you love, it will come back sometime. Lock it up what you love," and it says, "Let me be mine, let me be mine." So you're getting these two sort of different ends of the spectrum with whether to let love go or hold on to it. And, I think we've all heard the line, set love free, if it comes back it was meant to be, or different phrasings of that. But I really like how he took it to a real-world place of the reality and the duality that love can be. It's not as simple and cut and dry as that age-old adage. So I like where he took it.
Absolutely. Kevin, that's a great one. Actually, I had that kind of in my list. I really liked the contrast of, auction off versus lock it up. I mean, those are just, if you think about auctioning something off, sometimes you just don't really care about it. There's just, but on the other hand, locking up, the immense care for it. Yeah, great lyric you pulled there. Really dig it. So that brings us to overall rating. Kevin, what do you think of They Want My Soul?
Well, in case you can't tell, I'm pretty jazzed about this album. I'm going big. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. I think it's really a sturdy rock record from one of the most maybe underratedly reliable bands around today. It's got all the classic Spoon elements you want and love, along with these newer sort of atmospheric elements sprinkled throughout. And not only does it have a contender for track of the year, I also think this is a contender for album of the year, at least for me. How are you rating this, Derek?
Kevin, we're in agreement. We're going big this week, giving this one a 5 as well. For a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, I think even though you mentioned, this does harken back or recall a lot of classic Spoon, I thought this album felt a lot less formulaic than previous Spoon albums. There wasn't this kind of feeling of have to constantly have sound in there. They really kind of adopted, more like less is more, I guess you could say. There's something to be said for those moments of silence in between. It really gives more credence to those moments when there is sound. I thought they really did a great job of that. The expanded instrumentation, I thought really facilitated much greater creativity, immense greater texture to the overall sound, and just a lot of really good songs here. Cross genres, as we kind of been alluding to. So there you have it. A 10 from Kevin and I, so you should really go check this out. They Want My Soul by Spoon, so go check it out right now as soon as we're done talking about it. And thanks again for joining us at last week's album. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and other social media outlets. And don't forget to join us again next week where we're going to be talking about good music again. So until then, cheers.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.